that I remember about this church was a little age-old verse that we all learned. Here is the church, and here is the steeple. Open the door, and here's all the people. The people. That's what the church is. And I remember a lot of those people. One in particular, no one could forget, was Mr. Thomas Arkle. How many of you remember Tom? Well, he had the best selection of penny candy around, and we stopped there every single day. Well, when my sister Clara was in youth group, Mr. Arkle was her leader. And I didn't know that until we found some papers for you all for your thing next Sunday, or April, I guess it is. But when I was time for youth group, he had started a boys club. Now, I was kind of at the nippy, boy-crazy age, and I could not stand that it was a boys club, and we were invited. So I stopped at Mr. Arkle's several times a day, and finally, the boys were allowed to ask the girls. So, it didn't take me, we met down in the basement, the old basement of the church, and it didn't take me very long to realize, even as a kid, that Mr. Arkle had very little order. And the kids, the boys were so rowdy. And so his way of toning the whole thing down was he had a great big booming singing voice. And he liked to sing about joy. And he started singing, I have a joy, joy, joy down in my heart. And it goes down in my heart to stay. Well, it's got umpteen verses to it, and he'd go, everybody sing. Well, I had a vision that, until I got this cold, that we would all sing that in memory of Tom Arkle. But then I was so happy when I found out we have a famous singer here, and I thought if he knew the song, he could start. He says no. Okay. Isn't it strange, though, what memory chooses to remember? Like where people sit. Now, I don't know why we do this, but we normally sit in the same places. And we kids, young people, when I was young, sat in the first two rows right down here. Now, that was the old church. And for the life of me, I cannot figure why we did that. And I finally came up with the answer. One of our parents sang in the choir, and they wanted to make sure that we kids behaved. So if we sat in these two rows right here, the choir was turned around this way, they could see every move we made. And not only did we have our parents, we had our school teachers watching us. And in the 3rd, 5th, and 6th grade, I had Mrs. Donnelly. And she and her whole family sang in the choir. But on Monday morning when we got there, Mrs. Donnelly had a chart on the chalkboard. And it said boys, girls. And she would say to us, how many boys went to church yesterday? Boys put up their hand. And then she'd go, same thing for girls. And then if you didn't go, she'd say, well, how come you weren't there yesterday? So we had Mrs. Donnelly putting pressure on us too. But most of all, I thank my mom for leading me to my faith. And as most of you know, my mother was born in Vienna, Austria. And she did not come to America until she was 11 years old, and it was 1921. And her father had already been here 8 years. And so he enrolled his 3 children into St. Mary's Catholic School. No matter that none of them spoke English, he enrolled them in that school. And Mother graduated from there, and she met my father and moved here to Coleraine. Well, there was no Catholic church in Coleraine at that time. And we just lived down over the hill from here. And my grandmother, Mary Bell Fulton, was very active here. So it was only normal that she come to this church. Well, she joined the Friendly Circle class. She was in the choir. And when I went to college, the janitor job was open here. So Mom decided that she would be the janitor and help me with my expenses. Well, I remember that my dad came home from work one day and he goes, this happened a lot. I was home and he'd go, "Where's your mom?" And I'd say, "Up at the church." And he would say, "Well, she might as well move her clothes up there." So she did spend a lot of time up here, but you know, we always had a good cooked meal in the evening. And one of the dishes that she cooked, my dad called Presbyterian chicken. Well, I wondered what Presbyterian chicken was. So I asked my dad, I said, "What do you mean, Presbyterian chicken?" And he said, "Well, all dressing and not enough meat." So that was that. But Davy says he remembers my sister, his mom, fighting with him to come to church. He was a pretty creative youngster too, I can attest for that, because he went out the window doing Bible school. Well, he remembers the old church and how it looked, and I do too. And but he remembered that we had the center aisle like you do here, but in the back there was a section that had folding oak doors. Anybody else remember that? And when we had too many people in church, they would open those doors up. Well, he also remembers the Lord's auctions. And you know, the part that he remembers about that too, don't you? The farmers coming in with their chickens, their eggs, their potatoes, and one year one even brought a calf. And that was a big deal. And I remember, though, there was a clothesline across the yard, and there were so many quilts on it, and I can remember just being astounded. Did these women really make all these quilts? And one time I counted them, and there was around 27. Can you imagine that? And Mrs. Thoburn, who was an elderly woman, and Mrs. Westlake and my mother all made beautiful rugs, and they auctioned those off. The people here gave their best to the church. And Davy remembers how really generous Mary Lash was. And one time I was visiting with Mary, and she looked down her hand, and she took off her ring, and she said, "Here, I'm going to give this to you because I know you'll wear it." And so I wore it today in her memory. Davy and I both remember our youth groups, and we remember going Christmas caroling in the back of Donald Stobbs' cattle truck. Now, I did not enjoy that at all because it was cold in December to ride in the back of that truck. And we did it every year, and of course, being the person that I am, I wanted to go too. I thought I might miss something. Well, we were involved in the youth group, and Davy remembers all the great activities you did. And he still carries on his hayride, and I'm going to have to come to that. It's because it's been going on 45 years, right, Davy? So we look forward to that again. And I liked Christmas, though, and we all, the youth and the kids, would all get together and have some kind of program, which we thought was wonderful. And then we would all go downstairs, of course, to wait for Santa Claus, because he would bring an orange, which what kids think today, if you gave them an orange, and peppermint candy. So that was fun. And you know, I have a little verse that kind of really resonated with me, and it's Psalm 71:17. Oh God, you have taught me from my earliest childhood, and I have told everyone about you. Now that I am old and gray, do not abandon me, oh God. I talked to Gert Rooney yesterday or the day before, and I asked her if there was anything that she wanted me to tell, and she said, I want you to tell them that every important thing that happened in my life happened at Coleraine Church. And she reminded me of the communicants classes that we went to, and I still have my booklet, and I think there were, I should have brought it, I think it was about 25 questions, and we had to memorize all the answers to those questions. And I still remembered one up until I started to lose my memory here, but anyway, she also remembered the calendar parties, and you know, I started that in my home church, and it just felt like a lead balloon, and I thought they were the greatest things that ever were. Well, if Pastor give me the time, I have a favorite story that I'd like to tell. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, because Davey told me to make it short. Well, this story is about a boy named Ned. And Ned was an orphan train rider. He was put on the train in New York City, and he was told, forget your old life. This is your new life. It's kind of what we do when we accept Christ. But he was told that. So anyway, he didn't find his new life till the train got to Sterling, Kansas. And at Sterling, Kansas, there was a couple that went to meet the orphan train. And they were an older couple, and they lived on a ranch outside of Sterling. And they needed somebody to help with chores, which was often the case in the orphan train story. But his story really was a good story because they didn't abuse him, and they were good to him and grew to really care a lot about him and he about them. But one day when he was about 13, he knew a lot at 13, you know, and he was helping his dad fix fence. And they were going along, and they got into a big argument about how to fix the fence. So the boy got mad, and he just threw all his tools down and stalked off out in the bushes somewhere, and he stayed there. And his dad finished it up and went on to the house, and later, it was getting dark, and his father brought out a lantern, and he started calling him, Ned, Ned. Well, no answer. He wasn't going to answer him. So he walked up to Sterling. He thought, you know, I think I'm going to go back to New York. That's where I'm from. That's what I'm going to do. So he went to Sterling, Kansas train station. It was nighttime, and he thought, well, I don't have the money for a ticket, for heaven's sakes. So he made acquaintance with some hobos that were there at the train station, and they taught him how to jump a train so he could get to New York for free. So he jumped the next train going east, and he started on, got maybe quite a ways, and he thought, well, what am I doing? I don't know anybody in New York anymore. And so he jumped a train back west, and he almost got west, and he thought, what if my parents won't take me back? What if they're mad at me? So, went back east again. He did this for about 2 months, he says, and I can't imagine it was that long. But anyway, he finally came to his senses. I need to go back home. Well, he got to Sterling, Kansas in the middle of the night. So it was about 2 miles out of town. So he started walking, and it was real dark, and he thought, oh, I hope I'm going in the right direction. And all at once he saw a light in the distance, and he thought, well, maybe somebody left a barn light on somewhere. So he followed it. And he got closer, and he saw that it was his house. Well, what's a light going on in the middle of the night? And it was right in the window. So you can only imagine it was quite a reunion when he knocked on the door. But his mother informed him, "Hey, I've had this light burning for you ever since you left." So he found out they really loved him a lot more than he thought, didn't he? But that's you, Johnstown. Coleraine Presbyterian Church, you're the light. And you might go here, you might go there, you might get mad at the church. Who knows what happens in our lives? But you need to come back here. And I think that you can draw other people in too. So, I've given you a charge today. I want to see the pews filled in 5 years.